وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ وَجَاءَكَ فِي هَذِهِ الْحَقُّ وَمَوْعِظَةٌ وَذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Firstly, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, this is a second session with Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam. And Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam is a prophet that came after Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam. And we've already established that this is the part near Yemen, in a part called Ahqaf, between Yemen and Oman and Hadramaut, which is another section around Yemen. This is the part where they were giants, they were great people that Allah had created, given them a lot of power, and then they got up to worshipping idols, and then they were also very mighty on the earth, and they used to show their arrogance. So we've done one session, and this is the second session, and we're at the ayah of Surah Shu'ara, which is the 26th juz of the 26th surah of the Quran, ayah number 128 to 135. And this ayah, or these ayats, they talk about Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam telling them, what is wrong with you people? Why are you building on every hill? They used to build something that was to do with a monument, a building that others would like to look at, which gave them the pride and the prestige that I talked about last week. And they used to also make certain buildings that were long lasting, and they used to have pride in living them because it was almost like it would give them a long life. So he said to them, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَخْلُدُونَ, as if you're going to live here forever. Now there's a lesson to learn from this. What we learn from this is that the more security a person gets in this dunya, the more they are attached to this dunya, and the more they yearn to live in this dunya. That's the lesson that we learn from this. People who are living in mud houses, people who are living in non-secure places, they have, they've got worries just like us. We've got worries. Our worries are, big mortgage, and it's going to be about a big bill at the end of the month, or a big bill at the end of 3 months, or is my job secure? Their worry is their paddy field going to give the rice this year which they've planted? Is it going to stay or not? Our worry would be with our kids and the school and the education and the SATs and the GCSEs and the college degrees and university degrees. Their worry is, will his son live? Will he get a son first because he needs him for his paddy field? And will his son live? And will there be enough sons to look after his few, hens and sheep and goats or whatever? What a few things that he might have. His worry is about the rainy season. Will the rains fall again through his roof? His worry is about the cold season. Will he be able to bear the pain again with his wife living through the cold? Their worries are about the daily food rations that they're living on, or what can they get for the next meal. Whereas our worries are something else. But worries is on both sides. But what happens is the mentality of a people, when they live with something that is permanent, they almost have an effect of a permanent life, a permanent long life. No one actually believes that they're going to live here for a permanent sort of status, but it does have an effect on your mind. One of our ustads said that those people who eat from the plates made of clay, in the traditional, back in the days, even now in certain rural places of the earth, they eat in bowls and plates made of clay. So he said naturally those people are humble who eat from those. He said the people who eat from tin plates, the people who eat from plates that are not made of the earth, but are made of like the china plates and other type of plates that are more sort of shiny and so on, they'll have a different sort of feeling even those people who cook in those pots that are made of pure clay, and those people who cook in tinned sort of stainless steel pots, they have a difference in them. The early ulama said about the prophets that every prophet, alayhimu salatu wasalam, every prophet at some point of their life, Allah made them look after sheep. Every prophet at some point of their life, Allah made them look after sheep. And the reason was because when you look after sheep, sheep by their nature, they're humble. And sheep are hard to look after as well. You need a lot of patience, because one wanders off here, one wanders off over there, and then you've got to keep on having constant look after, looking over these sheep. You can't just drop off to sleep yourself and just say, everything will be fine, because your neighbors and others fields, that those landlords will be coming to you very soon and saying, look, they ruined our crops and they ruined this and that. So you've got to be on constant watch. Now, why is Allah doing this to prophets? It is because He wants them to be those who have patience for their ummah, patience in the face of adversary. He wants them to be humble in their nature. He wants them to be vigilant. He wants them to be, people who are responsible, because you've got to be very responsible with sheep. And all these things create the very basic characteristics that the prophets need to deal with their prophethood once they become a prophet. And all prophets, including our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they never kept things with them. They kept on giving things away. I know many of us are on different levels of this, but all prophets, if you look at especially our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he kept on giving away and giving away and giving away until you see on his deathbed, he had only a few things which he left, and they are counted items which he left in his possession at the time of his death. And these things that he left, they are even like a pillow, and pillow made of palm fibers, and things of maybe a couple of coins. Even at the day or 2 days before his death, alayhi salatu salam, he remembered a few coins that were under his pillow, and he told Sayyidatuna Aisha radiallahu anha to go straight away and to give that in charity. Why did they do this? And why is it that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam even said, he said, Allahumma, he said, ahyini miskina, make me live as a person in need. Wa amitni miskina, and make me die as a person in need. Wa wahshurni fi zumaratil masakin, and resurrect me and make me be on the day of judgment. Gather me amongst those people who are in need of you on the day of judgment. Now it's a beautiful dua, because he's saying that he wants to be a miskeen while he's living, a miskeen at death, and a miskeen on the day of judgment. Why? And the beautiful thing about this dua also is that he didn't say that make them masakeen. He didn't say to make them masakeen part of me on the day of judgment. He said make me part of the masakeen on the day of judgment, which is a great value to those people who are in need of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now what happens is, when you secure yourself, so you've got a secure job, you've got a secure house, and you've got a car, and you've got your phone, and you've got your life, and you've got everything else running nice and fine. What happens is, this security makes one forget about the afterlife, and it makes you forget all about death and the reality of death. And it makes you feel that, without you even saying it to yourself, your subconscious mind feels that, I'm here for a long time. I'm here for another good, you don't even think about how life is going by. So Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam, when he's talking to these people, he's reminding them that the more you are building these fortresses, and you're building these great monuments, and you're building these buildings where you are, you're living in those compounds, they're high up on the mountains and the hills, it's given them a sense of arrogance even more, that we are here, we are people who are people of a permanent and a long life. Right? That is the point of saying that. To mention that, on that point, just one more thing, is that Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us in the Quran about takathur, which is to try to have rivalry between ourselves, to try and increase more and more. The more power and things and assets, and especially with land, assets and buildings, some of the most arrogant people on this earth, I'm sorry to put it this way, if anyone's listening to this and you're one of those, but some of the most arrogant people on this earth are landlords. People who've got land, people who've got assets, because they're a lot more secure than others. With Ad, they were people who were already like giants. They themselves had divided between themselves. Okay, now I've got this part and you've got that part and so on. And each one was taking large amounts of lands and building on them. And each one was then priding over the other in what he was building, which was much greater and more stronger than the other person who was, down the other village or down the other mountain or the other valley. Now, he then added, Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam then added, he said, وَإِذَا بَطَشْتُمْ جَبَّارِينَ. When you strike as people who are arrogant, people who are showing off their might. Now this was another thing that they had, because what had happened is that, you imagine, now there's a big lesson to learn from this. These people are big. Now not everyone was created as giants in their time. This was the part in Yemen that Allah had created giants. Another one that Allah did with Salih alayhi salam was in the Syrian sort of region, and they were also like giants. Allah did not repeat this for everyone. So when these people came across others, they found them to be small human beings. And even between themselves, they had this extraordinary amount of strength and build to challenge each other in fights and in actual one-to-one combats. And what happened is that whenever they came, they had so much arrogance. There's a big lesson to learn from here, and that lesson is that you see this in our day and time in the 20-year-olds, in the late teenagers, the 20-year-olds, those especially who are part of gangs, and those especially who go to the gym. Right? I'm not saying every person who goes to the gym is like this. Please don't get me wrong. All right? There are a lot of good people who go to the gym. And going to the gym is a good thing anyway, because you get an exercise, that's fine. But being part of a gang or a gang culture or part of the street life, and then going to the gym and coming out of the gym like with a thin t-shirt on and a tight one on, right? When it's probably autumn time or winter time, and walking around, down the street as if, you got so much space around you to use. It's all my space. Anyone come here and I touch them, then you're dead. All right? So they'll walk with that kind of impression that, I've got something to show, right? And I've got this extraordinary amount of strength. And when they see another person with the thing is, the clashes don't come normally when a person like that, he's well built, he's got the body shape, he can do, bench presses like, 2-3 other people can't do together. This guy can lift that many weights. Now, when he comes across and someone like me, he sees me on the street, now he wouldn't sort of do that to a person who's religious, whatever. They don't pick on them anyway. But even if I didn't have the beard and so on, I'm just a normal guy just walking down. They don't have no qualms with that person. They have, tell me if I'm right or wrong, the moment he sees another man who he doesn't know, who's also got a thin, tight t-shirt on him, who's also like out there built, who's also going to the gym, who's also from the street life, who he doesn't know, the moment he sees him, is it peace or war? Tell me. Tell me, is it peace or war? Peace. Huh? No, they're not friends. They're not friends yet. They're not friends. If he doesn't know him, it's like, okay, he's going to eye him out. Am I right or wrong? They're going to like eye each other. It's like, yeah, okay. He knows he's there, and this one knows he's here, and they're like, okay, it's like two lions. It's my territory, bruv. I rule this den. Who in the world are you to show me your muscles in front of me? It's an instant reaction. And when they come in close contact, you can almost guarantee that if nothing else, it's not going to be like, yeah, assalamu alaikum, or like, hey, bro, how you doing? Where you from? Yeah, I'm cool. You're cool. It's not going to be that. It's going to be like walking past each other. It's like, yeah, what you got? What you got? What you got to prove, right? They might not clash with each other the first day, but you can imagine if they stay in the same area for a little while, there's going to be a bust up. Somehow, something, it's like, yeah, what do you want? What do you think you are? That's it. And it will start. And few of these boys together, you can imagine, now this is just one guy to one guy. Imagine like there's 4 of them coming out of the gym, and out of another gym, there's another 4 coming out. And every day they're passing by each other, and this guy, thinks he's big and he's tough. what they're going to do? Well, it happens in schools, it happens on the streets. The men to men, what they're going to do is they're going to start a fight. And when they start a fight, it's going to be to properly punch this guy up and beat him up so bad that his girlfriend's going to leave him because she can't recognize him anymore. Right? That's how bad he wants to beat him. Now that's the kind of thing that they will be thinking and so on. So Ad, when they saw each other and they were giants, they wanted to have a one-to-one. They wanted to sort of fight. And the fighting and the arrogance amongst them was at a high. So Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam is telling them, Fattaqullah, have fear of Allah. These same ayats in Surah Al-Shu'ara. Have fear of Allah. Think about the consequences of what you guys are doing. وَأَطِيعُونَ, and obey me. Now don't think that Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam was a small man talking to these giants. He wasn't. He was also their size. He grew up amongst them. So he was their size. If he was a small man talking to a few giants, I think they'd just say, whoops, I didn't see him, just stepped on him. Oh, sorry, sent him to the next life really early. They'd just finish him off. But he was also their height and their size. And he says to them, وَاتَّقُوا الَّذِي أَمَدَّكُمْ بِمَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Have awareness of the one who extended his favors on you. You are people whom Allah has given, and we are people whom Allah has given a great amount of height, strength, and we've got the build over all other people. So He's extended. And not only that, أَمَدَّكُمْ بِأَنْعَامٍ. He's given you animals. He's given you baneen, children. وَجَنَّاتٍ. He's given you many gardens. وَعُيُونَ. And He's giving you springs. Now, this is a specific ni'mah of Allah. He's saying to them, why mention springs? Because in Arabia, if you think about it, it's very rare to get gardens that are green and to get springs that are running beneath those gardens or in between those gardens is very rare. And whoever has got that is a lucky individual in the middle of Arabia. Not even maybe a couple of handful of people can say that they've got those things in the Arabian sort of peninsula. So he was reminding them, and then he said, "Inni akhafu alaykum adhaba yawmin azim." I fear for you people a day of punishment that is going to be really severe and really great and magnificent in its nature. So I fear for that. Now, instead of them being a people who are going to now say, well, he's right, we shouldn't be arrogant and so on, the nature of these people was that they were too much into it. Now, one of the things that happens is it's the peers and the grouping and the pressure that happens, which is something I mentioned when we covered Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam's story, but I'm going to mention it in a different way. Right now, if you look in the media, if you look amongst MPs, there's a big debate going on. There's many debates that come along and go across. But one of the things going right now is on the niqab issue. Right? Should niqab issue, should it be banned, should not be banned? Now, what happens is that the pressures amongst themselves is so much that each one fears stepping out of line. The moment you step out of line, you are a loner, you are a schmuck, you are whatever else they'll call you. You are a person who's an outcast. You're a person who's joining the other party, you are doing the abnormal, and you will get criticized and you will get mocked at for stepping out. Now, it's not just them doing it, we all do it. As human beings, you want to conform to your culture, to your people, to the norms and habits and behaviors of everyone around you. You even conform to their accent. Allahu Akbar. If you think about people, just look at England. We've got people up north in Manchester. They speak differently, slightly from the Newcastle people, and they speak. The Geordies in Newcastle, and the people in Birmingham, they speak differently from those people who are in London, right? So within one single small island, you've got so many different sort of accents. When you move from one city to another city, do they just say, he's just normal, he's talking normal English, or do they find you a bit funny? They find you abnormal, right? They find you funny, they think, why is he speaking? Oh, right, he's a northerner or he's a southerner. He's a northerner or he's a southerner. and you find the difference, and then what do? Well, if you stay there long enough, you naturally adapt to that. You will start speaking like them. And I've met people, in fact myself, I've been born and brought up in the Midlands. And when I'm here, I speak like this, the way I'm speaking. And as soon as I go back and see my family in Walsall, I'll be speaking in a dialect that fits them. And it just happens so naturally. And I don't know how I even do it, because even when I'm on the phone, I don't realize it. My wife tells me that, you just switched your your accent slightly, your tone, it just switched when you spoke to that individual. I said, all right, sometimes I'm aware of it, sometimes I'm not aware of it. Now, it's so much demanding, the peer pressure, and the thing is that you will adapt to every single part of it. You will adapt to it, and you will not want to step out. Allah's created us like that so that we can get on with one another. Now, what's happened here is the same thing is going on. All these giants, they're together, and they don't want to step out. So they will start making any excuse to get back at Sayyidina Hud. So one of the common things that, subhanAllah, Allah mentioned this, and there's a massive lesson to learn from this, because it's happening in our world right now in a different way, and I'm going to explain to you how. They said, Ya Hud, oh Hud, and they call him by his name, Hud. This is in Surah Hud, Surah number 11, ayah number 53 to 57, if you want to write the reference down. So they say, Ya Hud, ma ji'tana bibayyina. They said, you have not come with any evidence whatsoever. There's nothing clear as an evidence why we should prioritize you over ourselves. Why should we? You're just the same as us. They then added on, they said, وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَارِكِ آلِهَتِنَا عَنْ قَوْلِكَ. Just because you told us to leave these gods, we're not going to leave them. Just because you said it. You think because you are just going to tell us to do that and we're just going to do it? وَمَا نَحْنُ لَكَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. We're not going to even believe you. So three things. They said, no evidence. Second thing they said is that just because you think you're just going to tell us to do it and we're just going to leave it. And third thing they said is that we don't believe in you. We don't even believe in you that you're telling us the truth. Now, these are common things which many prophets face. But the next thing is the one that has the big lesson for us. They said, إِن نَقُولْ إِلَّا اعْتَرَاكَ بَعْضُ آلِهَتِنَا بِسُوءٍ. What we are telling you, forget you telling us, we are telling you that some of our gods got so angry with you and your behavior and what you've been saying about them is that they've cast a spell on you and they've done something evil to you which has made you like this, O Hud. See, you are a fool and you've lost, because they said safaha, they said call him a safi or a person who's foolish. They said you're a fool, you're a madman, because of our gods, they have cursed you. And that curse has fallen you. So Hud, you want to be back to normal to us? You stop saying that about our gods. You be the same as us. There'll be nothing wrong with you, Hud. At the moment, you're talking a bit of hula baloos. So now you can imagine, he's alone. He's trying to get them to believe in him, and they switch it on him. This is exactly what is happening and what happens. When you're in the field of da'wah, sometimes you feel you're absolutely alone. You're trying to change a people. You might be trying to change a family member or families. Sorry, let's say your whole family is one way and you're a different way. And they'll say to you, you know what? Since you became practicing, you lost your job. It happens, guys. People come to me and tell me this. They say, I got accused by my family that I'm the only practice one, I'm praying my salah. They say, since you did that, this happened, and that leak happened, and that other. You're a bad omen, guy. Change yourself to what we were before. Change yourself, change your habits. What we were all normal before. Why did you have to become practicing for? Because you became practicing, all these things happen. Sometimes reverts, they have a real big problem when they come into the religion and their families say this to them. And it really kills them inside. And they need to look at this story and they need to think that, there's nothing wrong with you. Is those people are making false accusation against you. And sometimes what happens is, and the common one is, you're just a normal individual, just doing something normal. It doesn't even have to be that you're practicing. It could be anything normal you're doing. And because you stepped out of line with your family in something, and you're not listening to them for some reason, they say, somebody must have done jadoo on him. Somebody must have put black magic on him. Somebody must have given him the evil eye. Somebody must have made him be like this because of the way he's reacting. And you get accused. And then they say, okay, let's take you. Where should I go? Let's take you to see someone. You are possessed. You are a person who's under influence. We need to snap you out of this. So we'll take you to a mullah who's going to basically put some chili up your nose and burn something and make you, see all these numbers in front of you, right? And sprinkle all this water over you and beat the shadow and the jinn out of you. And they come to me and they tell me this. I'll give you a typical case. This town we're in, there was a girl, and she's still around in this town, and she's part of my academy. She's left now. This is years back, right? She left. She left about a decade ago. But about 5 years ago, she phoned me. I don't know how she got my number. She must have found so many people to get my number, but she phoned me. And she said to me, sir, she said, I really need to ask you something. I said, what? Said, my whole family, they're telling me that I've got, because she said that I actually fainted a couple of times. A normal girl, 22 years old, doing her studies, and she just fainted, right? A couple of times it happened. Now her whole family, especially being Asians, and on top of that being Bengali, and being from Sylhet, they say that's it. Why should a nice looking girl, 22 years old, not married, suddenly faint twice? This is extraordinary, this is it. She has been possessed, someone's done black magic, that's it. We're taking you to this guy, to this masjid, to that masjid, and so on. Now, she was freaked out, saying that, look, I don't want to go, I don't think there's anything wrong with me, and I'm completely fine, and I don't see anything, and I'm not hallucinated, I'm not whatever, just leave me alone. They said, no, you better come, that's it, you got no choice, you don't know what's going to happen to you. You might actually be taken by the jinn, you might take you up to a tree and convert you to a jinn. Allahu Akbar. I don't know how they make these things up, right? But I'm serious, they make all these things up. So she said, I've told my family that I've got a teacher of mine, and if he tells me I need to go somewhere, I will go. And if he tells me I don't need to, then I won't. And you guys just base it on whatever he says. And that's when she called me that, please help me here. So I got in contact with the family and I said, okay, let me see what the situation is with this girl. So she was in hospital at that time, Middlesex Hospital, went to visit her there, her family were there. I told the family to stand aside for a little while. And I had a one-to-one with her, and I said, tell me, is there anything that is abnormal in your life, whatever? How are you seeing things? Are you this? I asked all the normal questions, and she's saying, no, nothing. I'm completely fine. So I'm bewildered myself. I'm thinking, what is wrong? Why is this girl? And the doctors can't find anything either. That's the another, and when the doctors can't find anything, bas jadoo kar liya na. It's got to be there somewhere. We'll find the crook wherever he is, and we'll send him one as well. So now it's getting even more frustrating because the doctors are doing all these checks on her blood, on this and that, and saying we can't find anything. So I found my Shaykh in Bangladesh, and my Shaykh straight away said, Allah gives certain people who are close to Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah gives them a firasa. Even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about this. He said, ittaqu firasat al-mu'min. He said, be aware of the inner psyche of a believer, the inner insight of a believer, because he sees from the light of Allah Azza wa Jal. So I phoned my Shaykh, and my Shaykh straight away said to me on the phone, he said, she's in love with someone, and she doesn't know how to break it up to her family because her family is going to say no. And because of her stress, that she's never going to be able to marry this person whom she's deeply in love with, she has blacked out a couple of times. And straight up, I'm not making any of this up. Shaykh, I got off the phone to him, went back to Middlesex Hospital, right? Family said, stay aside. one-to-one with a girl, and I said straight up to her, I said, who in the world are you in love with? And she went red from here to here. And she blushed. And she said, why do you ask such a question? How do you know? And I said, look, ittaqu firas al-mu'min. I asked the Shaykh said this, I'm just being straight up with you. Who in the world? Then she broke up. She said, well, it's a guy, he's 23 years old, I'm mad in love with him, and I really need to get married to this person, I really need to, and I don't know how to break it up to my family, and my family's not going to accept it. Everything the Shaykh said over the phone, she confirmed it. This is just 5 years ago. She confirmed it, and then I asked again the Shaykh, and the Shaykh said, okay, tell her not to worry, whatever, tell her to read certain things just to calm herself down and so on. And I told the family, all I said to the family is, look, there's nothing wrong. She doesn't have to go to see anyone. There's no jinn, there's no jad, there's nothing, there's no black magic and so on. And then, alhamdulillah, now, a few years later, alhamdulillah, she's completely fine. Because in the end, I had to convince her that, look, you've got to give up. Either you give up this person, or you're going to go through another few blackouts and so on. And it's going to stress you out. So, alhamdulillah, she, in the end, gave up that relationship. Took some time, but she did that, and alhamdulillah, she's completely back to normal now. Now, what I want to say to you is that people do go through these phases in their life where others are accusing you of something which you are not, and there's so many of them saying the same thing to you. Sometimes you could even go mental in the house because so many people are saying the same thing to you. I had this recent one case where one individual, he had to leave the house. He had to look for another friend's house. In the end, he got in contact with me and he said, this is very recently, this is within the last year. He got in contact with me and he said his family are driving him crazy. I said, what for? Because they want him to marry this particular girl. And if he doesn't get married to her, then that's it. It's all, they're going to blow his whole life up because he's not agreeing to that. And he doesn't want to get to married to her because she's ugly. He don't find her pretty. I'm not saying women are ugly in general. There are a lot of beautiful women out there. But he just didn't fancy her. And they're putting so much pressure on him that you better just say yes. You better just say yes. Now, then they start accusing things. They're saying that somebody must have done something to you and so on. And same case, same scenario. So what I want to say to you is that from this, they said to Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam that you have been bewitched, you've got a curse on you, there's an evil omen about you, our gods have done something to you, and that's why you're behaving like this. So now you've got to listen to his answer. Subhanallah. Now, this is a prophet. Alayhi salatu wasalam. This is, we've got to the whole reason why this is here is that you learn from them. So much pressure on him that all of these people are ganging up on him, and they're saying, it doesn't matter what he says, he's just cursed. He's a man who's cursed. Do you go and stay near a person who's cursed? Do you live next to a person who's cursed? Do you listen to a person who's cursed? No, a man of things they must have said to him. So then he said, Inni ushhidullah. He said, I make Allah a witness. Washhadu, and you be my witness as well. Anni bari'um mimma tushrikun, that the thing you are calling me to, I am completely acquitted of that. The first thing he said is that Allah is my witness, that I'm never going to be. Now you're trying to put so much pressure on me that you're trying to get me to agree to your devil worshipping or your idol worshipping. You're trying to get me to worship all of these idols, which in an essence is devil worshipping, because you're listening to the devil. You listen to the devil. Whether you worship him straight up or not, you're listening to the devil. So he said, you want me to be pressurized to do this? No, I put Allah as my witness, and I make you my witness that I'm completely acquitted of that. Now the first thing I want to say to all of you lot who might be under this pressure at any time in your life is, you just tell them, if you feel you're in the right, you tell them there's no way. With absolute certainty. You can see how much certainty is in this. He first says, Inni. Inni is like, surely myself. Then he says, Ushhidullah. Before he even says what he's going to say, he said, Allah is my witness, I'm saying this. Washhadu, and you remain my witness, I'm saying this. Anni bari'um mimma tushrikun, that I'm completely far away from whatever you people are doing. First thing. Second thing he says, Min dunihi fakiduni jami'an thumma la tunzirun. He said, besides God, whosoever you want to find to try and go and worship to them, because that's what they're doing. They were going to their idols, they're saying, oh, idol of this and idol of that, we want you to curse Hud. Now what happens is they make it now part of their worship to curse the Prophet, and that's what they were doing. I just want to say to you that it's very unfortunate, right? I'm not saying to you that all Shias are non-Muslims. I'm not saying that to you. There are Shias who are Muslims, there are Shias that are non-Muslims. It depends on their Aqidah. But it's very sad to see that some Shias, the whole religion is based upon cursing the Sunnis. It's really sad. It's a really sad state of affairs that you need to make your religious beliefs that you just curse somebody else, and that's how you actually elevate yourself in your deen. So on this point he said, Min dunihi fakidun. He said, you take whoever else you want besides Allah, and you use them to try and plot against me. So go and get all your gods you want, jami'an, all of them. Thumma la tunzirun. And he said, whether they are gods or others, bring as many people as you want to go against me. Bring your entire force on me. Thumma la tunzirun. And don't even give me a chance to have, a step ahead, or don't give me a chance to have, to be aware of any plot that you're making. Just do what you like. Inni tawakkaltu Allah. Why I'm saying this to you is because I have put my trust in Allah. Inni tawakkaltu ala Allah. Rabbi wa Rabbikum. My Lord and your Lord as well. Now subhanAllah, there's a big message here. He just doesn't say, my Lord versus your gods. No. He says, my Lord and your Lord versus your gods. Right? There's a difference. It's like, you think I'm going to bring the one Allah who just I'm on side of, and you're on all these gods together, and we're going to have a battle. No. He's saying, my Allah is your Allah, by the way. Right? What you want to say, subhanAllah, you want to think about these, some of these, sometimes I think like this because I read it in one of the scholars' sayings. He said, some of these arrogant people who are in power. They're in power. Whether it's some of these large countries, some of these large generals and armies and whatever else, and going countries and doing whatever else they want, all right? Just put it in your mind and say what that scholar said. What did he say? He said, the God that makes me urinate every day makes you urinate as well. The God that makes me go to the toilet every day is the same God that makes you go to the toilet every day. What's the difference between me and you? Doesn't matter how much of a big guy he is on the earth. Doesn't matter how many people he's got under him, how much influence, how many billions of dollars he has and trillions and so on, how much investment he has and how much power he has. The God that makes me, a simple man, go to the toilet, makes that man, a simple man, go to the toilet. There's no difference between me and him in the sight of God. And the God that will put me 6 foot down is going to be the God that will put him 6 foot down as well. He's not going to escape that. Another scholar said, who in the world are you to show your arrogance when you passed through 2 private paths? One through your fathers and the second one through your mothers to get to this world. You passed through 2 private paths to even be born. So who in the world are you to show your arrogance? Subhanallah al-Azim. You think about it. So, these tyrants and others, when the prophets taught us that you don't look at them in any way that they have got any power. Inni tawakkaltu Allah. I put my trust in Allah, who is my Lord and your Lord as well. It's the same Lord who's feeding you, who's feeding me. Who's giving you all the treats that you've got and giving me my treats that I've got. If you've got any dignity lost on your side, it's him, not your gods. مَا مِن دَابَّةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ آخِذٌ بِنَاصِيَتِهَا. Subhanallah. Then he stamped it down. He adds on. This is not just a simple statement he's making. He's saying every creature that crawls, every beast that moves, every creation that has an ability to make some maneuver, إِلَّا هُوَ آخِذٌ بِنَاصِيَتِهِ. My Allah has got their forelock in his hand. The forelock is this part of the hair. Now I know my hair is short, right? Now imagine my hair was a bit long and you could actually seize it. Now this is the forelock, this part here. And the Arabs have a saying that in different languages you have different ways of expressing it, right? So when in English you might say he got him by the neck. Yeah, he got him by the neck, right? Or some others might say he got him by the you know what I'm trying to say, like, yeah? They might say that. It means that he's got no way to escape, right? Even in Bangla they say shashid durmun, like basically I'll get you by the part where I can strangle you, right? So in Arabic what they say is they say akhidum binasiyati, which means one who holds the forelock. Now whoever's got the forelock has almost got the whole body under him, and he's got his most precious part of the body, which is the head, in his grip. So they when they say that, they mean that you've got no escape. Just like you might say he got him by the neck. He just got him, in a position that he couldn't get out of. So every creation that crawls, that moves, that has the ability to wither, my Allah has got its forelock in his hand, meaning that you can't escape. Now this is a beautiful thing. I remember the Shaykh said the other day, we were talking about Bangladesh and the situation in Bangladesh, all these, whatever is going on. And I said to him, I said, Shaykh, what is it that, all this is happening and so on. And there's a lot of frustration. You think about it, country after country, you've got a lot of frustration. He said a beautiful thing. He said, and you cherish these things for life. When a person who's elderly, who's wise says this, you cherish it for life. He said, batil, which is falsehood will never be able to escape the hukum of Allah. Falsehood will never be able to escape the command of God. Never. So no matter how much they're doing, right now, the whole of whichever Western world countries that they're trying to plot against, whatever Middle Eastern country and whatever happening within the Muslim countries, and whichever generals and coups and whatever else is going, just look at them as batil, falsehood. Whatever they're doing, they're still within the command of Allah. They can't escape that. So if Allah willed that they can't do a certain thing, they will not be able to do a certain thing. And that's a great satisfaction for the believer to know, that you can only harm me as much as my Lord has written for me to be harmed by you. Besides that, you can't harm me anymore. So if you're going to give me a broken nose, and you're going to give me, broken teeth, and you're going to give me a broken arm, that's as far as you can go. But if my Lord didn't write that you're going to kill me, you can't kill me. And if my Lord didn't even write that broken arm, you can do whatever you want to break my arm, you can't do it. And if my Lord didn't even write that you can't break my nose, then you can't break my nose. Doesn't matter how hard you punch me and how hard you try and attack me, my nose will not break, because Allah is the one that has the command over any falsehood and anyone else that is there. So he stated that. And then he said, Inna Rabbi ala siratim mustaqim. My Lord is on the absolute straight path, which means that my Lord has got full justice, full command, full power, and he's got full power, and he exercises his authority over all of his affairs of whatever is happening in this world. And here in my place of Yemen, what you guys are doing, my Lord has got every power over you people. And I remember one scholar said, beautifully said, he said, the believer, he sees everyone. And imagine right now, just look around the people, right? Now we just see individuals. He said, can you imagine if each person had a link, just imagine an invisible link from their head and their body, the whole body going upwards. Imagine every single one's head, there's a link going upwards, right? So these are link that's connecting his eyes, his ears, his nose, his face, his mouth, collecting all his brain, his nerves, connecting his heart, connecting the pulse rate of his heart, connecting his arms, his vessels, his veins, his joints, his limbs, his bones. Every part of the body has got this kind of a link that's coming out, and you find that it's getting it's all joining up to one link, and it's going up. Then he said, imagine every human being has got that link. Every creature, every animal has got that link, right? And that link goes direct to Allah, meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal, He's got the power over the vein, the cells, It's His power over the brain, His power over the skull, over the arms, over the shoulders, the body, the legs, and all of that. And every vein, muscle, brain, thought, idea is linked up to Allah. And that they are within His powers, so that they can't really do anything without His will. He says the true believer sees every creation of God like that. Imagine you see your enemies like that all of them are under His hukum. So that's how the Sahaba must have felt, going into the battlefields and thinking, seeing what? All of these, they're under the command of Allah. How many am I going to get down, right? And if one of them gets me down, well, I had my link to Allah, right? And it was my turn through the fate of God that I fall at this moment. So who cares? When my moment comes, I'm going to fall down. Before that, let me try and show my Lord how many I can take down. This was the mentality behind them, which made them, so audacious when they went ahead. So anyway, Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam mentions that, and then he says, after saying, Inna Rabbi ala sirat mustaqim, he says, فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا. So you turn around, you reject my message, فَقَدْ أَبْلَغْتُكُمْ مَا أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ إِلَيْكُمْ. I have delivered my part of my job of giving you a message. I have completed my duty. So I'm not at loss. Now what we learn from here is that when you're in a situation where you've got people against you and they're trying to switch you to their ideas and so on, you've got to be strong enough to say, look, I've done my duty. I'm doing a good job here. Sometimes you can't see the other end. But you've got to convince yourself and tell them that your duty is being done. If you're on the truth, carry on speaking the truth. Even if falsehood is in its multiples, like rain around you that surrounds you, just carry on. And that's the message that we get from such Anbiya. And then he says, وَيَسْتَخْلِفُ رَبِّي قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. He said, tomorrow, all of you people are going to be replaced with another nation. Now, isn't it true? Guys, sometimes you're in a place, right? Sometimes you're in a place, it's really, really funny. We're here in this masjid right now. We're in this masjid right now, yeah? Who was here before us? Anyone tell me? Anyone tell me? Before the masjid, yeah? Synagogue. It was a Jewish synagogue, yeah? So this place was a Jewish synagogue. And they worship. And then who knew that we would be in power here and get this piece of land? But before the synagogue, I don't even know who owned it, who earned it, who had it. But I'm sure some Christians probably had it. And before them, this part of the earth, did it exist before that? Of course it did. Who had it? Well, some Saxons had it. Some Romans had it. Some, I don't know, some guy under King Edward had it. Edward the second or third or fourth or fifth or whoever you want to call him, James the whatever, under him some guy had it, right? There were some landlords 400 years ago, 500 years ago, 600 years ago. Now before them there was others, before them there were others. And you think to yourself, if you now compare yourself to the Romans, you think the Romans had this land. Where are the Romans today, guys? Come on, tell me. Where are the Romans? In the museums. That's where the Romans are. They're nowhere else except for the museums. The Saxons, the Vikings, the whole lot of the history that they had in this country, they're all in history books and in museums. They're nowhere else. And if they discover something from the earth, they end up again in the museum, and the monuments and the artifacts end up in the museum, and that's it. History, my friend. Well, this is what Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam was trying to tell his people. He's telling them, you people, you're so arrogant today. Don't you see that Allah's going to give this part of the earth? He's going to put it into the hands of somebody else after you, that your whole generation is going to get wiped out. You people won't even exist. Not even your neighbor, whoever will exist unless if Allah wills. Nothing will be there. Don't you see that another nation, and after that another nation will come, and after another nation will come. Who knows how many other people will occupy this land, because this is Allah's land. And the whole of the earth is Allah's land. And Allah chooses who He wants to give His parts of His lands to. Then He said, وَلَا تَضُرُّونَهُ شَيْئًا. He said, none of you will be able to harm me by the least. Do what you want. Bring on all your gods. Inna Rabbi ala kulli shay'in hafiz. Why you can't harm me is because my Lord is the one who's overall protecting on everything. He protects everything. So therefore, my Allah is protecting me at this moment. You can do what you want. Now, what we learn from this is the sheer iman that Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam had. How strong he was in saying all of these words to them in the face of them saying that he's an evil omen, he's been cursed, he's got black magic on him, or the gods have have cursed him or done something to him. The sheer iman he's got and the faith he has in Allah and the strength he has in standing in front of these people, that's the strength Allah wants to take. He wants us to take a lesson from such a thing. And like all prophets, this wasn't one day. My brothers, this wasn't one day. This was day in, day out, day in, day out. They had to put up with all these different things that they were saying against them. And ourselves, we're going to go through certain phases in life where you're under pressure day in, day out. Now, one thing I want to tell you is, and I'll end this session with this, is that, under such immense pressure, people get stressed, people get depressed, and people crack. People actually crack under pressure. Their brain, the mental abilities, it cracks. What happens is that they feel helpless. A normal person, what happens, I'll tell you how depression sort of happens, is at first you're trying to convince, and you're burning all your energy out in trying to convince them about the truth. Imagine you're trying to give dawah to some people out there, whoever it is, family, friends, whoever it is, or it could be even, a lot of people have come to me and talked about workplaces. Sometimes in workplaces you've got people who are oppressing others, then what they do is they switch things on you. So you're talking about the truth, they're talking about falsehood. And I'll give you a typical scenario. There was a person I know that went into the drug rehabilitation sort of program. He's working with the council and he's trying to get people off drugs. So it's a whole, it's part of the borough, part of the council, and trying to do that. Then what he does is he gets inside and he's got a lot of energy to burn. He's telling people, telling all his peers that this is how we're going to get him off drugs and so on. Yeah, everything's all good. It's all paper, everything. Then he realizes that what's on paper, these guys are doing something different. And he's, what's going on here? We're the people trying to get them off drugs, and you're the people in charge of this with me, and you guys are not doing your job properly. So he finds out that, subhanallah, these guys, they are going against their own paperwork. They're not going into the areas where drugs are, and there must be something going wrong. And then he finds out that they've got a deal somewhere. So the guys who are in the office, in the council, have got a deal somewhere not to go in certain areas. The drug barons, they must pay them off and said, we'll give you this much cash, backhander. We'll give you this backhander as long as you basically don't come into our area. So there's less invigilating going on in those areas. There's more going on in other areas. So he sees all of this. Why are you not going into this area? I know there's drugs being sold there. And they're not doing that. Then what happens is that he finds out that some drugs that were seized are now missing. Hey, what happened? Where did these drugs go? And it's a typical story. The drugs went back, resold back to the drug barons. This happens, all right? This brother that was involved in this, he's now at the top senior level, going in there and giving everything he's got to try and make others aware of the dodgy tactics and the mishandling of all of this that's going on. What do? They gang up on him, all right? This is a true case I'm telling you. They gang up on him and they make him look like the weirdo. The one that is, he doesn't know how to work properly. He's got an anger management problem. Anger management problem. He's losing it. He's talking too loud. He's a bit rude. That's what they'll do. They'll play emotionally. He's a bit rude. He's saying things that he shouldn't say. He should say different. Okay, there might be certain things, but he's got to understand. He doesn't understand. All these accusations against him. And what do? They flip people around, and then in the end, the main people who are right at the top, they put certain bad, false information in their ears, and they switch them around this guy. What happened in the end? They're firing. When they fired him, he went into severe stress. And his stress went into some kind of depression. Now what happens then is that you're helpless. You can't do anything. Along the way, he even found out that some police were perhaps mishandling the whole thing as well, the project as well. So he went to, he dropped down. What then happens is that because you feel helpless and you feel you can't do anything, you then start talking to yourself. right? You start saying, no man, this is bad. You try to talk to as many people as you can. The problem then is, the more people you talk to, and at the same time you're helpless, what happens is that this thing kills you even more. If you're able to talk to people and get to a solution of your problems, then you come out of stress and depression. But if you are deep in this and nothing's happening, all you're doing is talking to people, you're digging yourself in sand and quicksand and taking yourself deeper. And that's when serious depression comes. And that's when you need to go on tablets, you need to go to the hospital and so on. Now, luckily for this brother, someone came along and started giving him some medication and so on. And luckily also, he started to come out of it through other ways and so on. But what I want to say to you is, I've seen people who've come to me taking advice off me, and they go through this, and I warn them. And the best thing for anyone to do is what Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam did, which is you say, you guys can do what you want, all I know is my Allah, that's it. That's the only way you can save yourself from depression and stress. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter, like taking antidepressant drugs. You know what it does? It just numbs a part of your brain. That's all it's going to do. It's going to numb certain parts of your body, and that's all it will achieve. It won't get to the root of your problem. The root of your problem is your mind. You need to get your mind straight, focus, strength, strong belief. That's what Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam did. He had his mind, his body, his whole psyche, his inner, his outer, he's all strong. You can do what you want. I've got my Allah. My Allah is on the straight path. My Allah is with justice. My Allah protects me. My Allah, I have put my full trust in Him. My Allah controls you people. My Allah controls all the people, all the creatures that move around. My Allah has full power over everything. What can you guys do to me? Go and do what you want with me, because I'm not going to worry about you. I'm going to still just put my trust in Allah, my thoughts in Allah, and that's the only thing that can keep you calm. That's the only thing that can keep you calm. That's why Allah said in the Holy Quran, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." Only through the remembrance of Allah will minds be settled. Only through the hearts and minds will be settled, only through the remembrance of Allah. And with that, I finish. Inshallah, next week we'll continue with the third part of Sayyidina Hud alayhi salatu wasalam. Jazakumullah khair wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.
الذكر علم ونور الحاملات سنا ونور والرسمات هنا سرور يا حلوات تلك السنين